It's hard to believe that 13 years have gone by since I arrived here in Easter Island, Rapa Nui, one of the most isolated inhabited places in the world. It's famous for its giant statues, but I'd come for love, already engaged to be married to my wife, who I'd met in New Zealand the year before. My friends said I was crazy. You're a city boy, they said. And it was true. I had been raised in Auckland, a city of over 1 million people, lived in London and Istanbul. But when I stepped off that plane for the first time, the island captivated my heart, and it's been a love affair ever since. The crystal clear waters, its moonlight topography, and the wild ocean as it smashes in on the blackened lava rock. The hundreds of horses that roam wild along the barren landscape. And of course the people, who, through having my family here, have become my people. Although Easter Island is politically a part of Chile, being annexed in 1888 by that country, it lies over 3,000 kilometers off the coast. And yes, one of the official languages is Spanish, and they use Chilean currency, but the heart and soul of Easter Island belongs to Polynesia, and it sits as the eastern corner of the Polynesian Triangle. Easter Island is essentially an underwater mountain being part of a large underwater mountain range. However, out of the thousands of underwater mountains, this is the only one that pokes its head up above the water surface, forming an island. Its unique triangular form is a result of eruptions starting over 2 million years ago. The size is unremarkable, being 24 by 19 by 16 kilometers. Put simply, that means if there was a road running all the way around the circumference of the island and you could drive 60 kilometers an hour, it would take roughly 1 hour to drive the whole island. We're not going to need a decent road today because we're going to explore the island by drone. Come with me, let's check out a bird's eye view of this truly unique place. Please make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy it, and let me know in the comments section below if Easter Island looks like you thought it would look. Cheers guys, and let's get into the video. Beginning in the south of the island, we have what is the most impressive natural wonder of the island, the volcano of Rano Raraku. Over 1 mile across and 200 meters deep, the patchwork of floating reeds on its surface give it a truly otherworldly feel. Although a decent hike to get down, this would have been one of the few freshwater resources in the area in ancient times. With breathtaking cliffs on 3 of its 4 sides, the relentless waves smashing the southern cliff face means that it may at some point be smashed completely through, and the freshwater on the inside will be lost to the Pacific Ocean forever. Perched high up on the bluff of the western side of the volcano is the ceremonial village of Orongo. In ancient times, once a year, in spring, certain people from each tribe would make their way up to this village to take part in a competition which involved scaling down the cliffs, swimming out to some islets off the coast, and trying to find the first egg of the sooty ternbird. Whoever got that egg, his respective chief would be the chief of the island for that year. The northern side of the volcano slopes gently down towards the village of Hanga Roa, the only town on the island. Before arriving there, we come to one of the longest runways in the southern hemisphere. This was elongated by NASA in the 1990s to accommodate the emergency landing of the NASA space shuttle. The shuttle never landed here, but these days it accommodates the landing of over 100,000 tourists a year. At the west side of the runway we have the small suburb of Mataveri. It's here that we find the prison and the police station, and of note some very interesting cave systems where the ocean smashes up inside them. Moving north, we come to the town of Hanga Roa. This is the only town on the island and is the result of when the whole island was rented out as a sheep farm and everyone was forced to live within this area. Now a sprawling suburbia, Hanga Roa was largely unplanned, yet it remains an attractive town for its 8,000 or so residents, with a busy main road, lush gardens, a boardwalk, and a world-class museum. The adjacent Bay of Hanga Roa provides a small port and a coast where man-made beaches and rock pools provide oases to relax on long summer days. A short 20-minute walk from the centre of town to the north is the restored ancient village of Tahai. From here you can experience some of the best sunsets in the world as they backdrop the silhouette of the famous statues. Slightly north of town is an unlivable and unplantable area full of lava rock. This was caused by lava flowing around about 10,000 years ago, making it some of the youngest area on the island. Although relatively uneventful on the surface, beneath this area is an absolute maze of lava tubes, places where the ancient Rapa Nui lived in times past. Interestingly, directly to the east of this area is some of the most fertile land on the island. The Seven Moai pay tribute to the people that once lived and farmed here. And more recently, many Rapa Nui have gone back to this area and started planting, leaving a patchwork of plantations across this area. The hills to the east form a barrier protecting it from the harsh eastern winds, funneling the rains down their slopes into the patchwork of plantations below. Moving north, we come to the open grasslands of Tirivaka, the gently sloping hill, making its way up to the highest point of the island. Volcanic cone-like topography gives a feeling of craters of the moon, and the view from the top gives you a spectacular view over the whole island. Although there are no constant streams on the island, there is a small lake at the top of Tirivaka, which, when it rains, creates a stream which runs down the eastern coast towards the southern plains. It's likely that the stream was actually constant in ancient times before the whole island was deforested. On the southeastern slope, there is a forest of eucalyptus trees planted in the 1950s. These were going to be used to power the island's electricity by burning in a furnace, but the furnace was never made. These days, electricity is powered by two big diesel generators. The forest makes its way down to the southeastern coast, coming to an area called Vaitia. This area was the headquarters of the sheep farm which dominated the island from 1903 to 1953. Today there are a number of plantations through this area, and one of the best roads makes their way from the town, passing through Vaitia towards the beaches on the north coast. From here we move to the southern coast, an open rocky grassland where wild horses tend to roam. Many of the tour buses start their tours on this particular area because most of the ancient population used to live here, and we know this because of the remains of all the villages. All along this coast we see both statues pushed down and the 15 statues, the famous Tongariki, the best place to watch the sunrise on the island. Apart from the statues, the ocean swell along this coast is spectacular as the huge waves lash the blackened lava rock. If you're feeling adventurous, you can find caves hid along the coast here, along with beautiful rock pools to spend those lazy summer days with the family. On the northern part of the southern coast, we find the crater of Rano Raraku. Rano Raraku literally means the lined volcano, and it probably has to do with its appearance when looking from the southern coast. Up until just a few years ago, the crater in the middle was filled with water, making it one of the few freshwater resources in this part of the island. Sadly, in recent times, droughts have dried up the inner lake, leaving just a patchwork of once floating reeds. It is the soft, tough rock that's found on the inner and outer slopes that was used to carve over 1,000 statues on the island. Even today, scores of these statues remain on the inner and outer slopes, some partially carved, some stuck in the rock, and some sitting on the side of the slopes with just their heads protruding. To the east of Rano Raraku is the peninsula of Poike. Poike was essentially an island in its own right before the rest of the island was formed by subsequent volcanoes. At 400 meters above sea level, the summit is the second highest point of the island. At the point of Poike, there's a relatively insignificant crater covered with eucalyptus trees, which the cows used for shade tree. Most of Poike is open grasslands, although there are 3 interesting humps on its northern coast. These 3 humps are made out of a white rock called trichite, which was used to make the few statues that are found in this part of the island. The open rolling grasslands coalesce into red rust canyons, which drop perilously into the ocean below. Famous caves of legendary status can be found along this cliff face, places where young women would be kept for purification rites before they were married off to their aristocratic husbands. As we head west along the northern coast, it's largely uneventful until we hit the beautiful beach known as Ovahe. To make it to the main part of the beach, one has to clamber over some rocks. But the golden sand, mixed with the red earth from behind, forms a slightly pink colour that gives Ovahe its unique flavour. If you get here in the morning, you might find you have the whole beach to yourself. A short walk around the coast to the west, we find the idyllic beach of Anakena. This beautiful golden sand beach is the cradle of Rapa Nui civilization, as it was here that the first people arrived, the only place on the island to safely land a boat. It remains a jewel amidst a coastline of jagged and foreboding rocks, and the royal family occupied this area through the centuries. Today, locals and tourists alike gather on lazy summer weekends, enjoying the warm water as the smell of barbecues fill the air. Finally, we come to what is commonly referred to as the North Coast. It's the stretch of land running from Anakena around the coast back to town. Few people make it around here, but those that do find a treasure trove of archaeology, including caves, petroglyphs, and ancient houses where people lived in ancient times. There are definitely no roads around this area, so you must attack it by either foot or horseback. You're likely to be the only one traversing it. About halfway along the north coast, we come to a place called Hanga Roa. This place is well known by the locals for great shore fishing, and the steep cliffs dropping down to an old abandoned shack surrounded in palm trees is a throwback to the old sheep farm and reminiscent of an older, more simpler time. Continuing west from here, we come to the corner of the island, take a left, and we're on our way south, back to the island's only town of Hanga Roa. And there we have it, a drone tour of Easter Island, Rapa Nui, my island home. Make sure to like and subscribe to get the latest content of all that's happening on this wonderful island. Until next time, take care, Yorana.